Hey guys, it's Lizzie. Today's video is the most common mistake that people who have bipolar disorder make in their lives. To start off, if you're new to my channel, make sure to be following me on my Instagram and Twitter. I have bipolar disorder type 1 and I've been diagnosed for 4 years. Also linked below is my bipolar disorder playlist with 70 plus videos talking about my experience living with bipolar and sharing all the research I've done on it. I have received thousands of messages, not just from people who have bipolar disorder, but more so from people who are dating or married to someone who is bipolar. People who are in love with someone with bipolar disorder. And it is always the same message, the same situation, the same questions, the same emotions. And it all has to do with something called detachment. Emotional detachment that is a symptom in bipolar disorder. It's something you will rarely hear from a therapist or a psychiatrist. It's not in the research. When I was diagnosed with bipolar in 2016, I did so much research, reading scholarly articles, drug trials, all of these official documents, scientific research on bipolar. But I also read a lot of forums. I watched YouTube videos. I read stories of people who are bipolar, and I discovered something that I had experienced but didn't realize that it was my bipolar that was acting. Detachment is a light switch where suddenly all emotions, feelings, passion, sentiment towards the person you are supposed to be in love with is shut off suddenly, impulsively, out of nowhere. It's also the feeling of not being physically attracted to them anymore and not wanting any physical contact. What is so odd about this is that unlike other symptoms of bipolar, it's not more likely to happen in a manic episode or more likely to happen in a depression episode. It's not a symptom of either episode. It's something that just happens randomly in your romantic relationship. I've been told that I need to put less thought into my emotions, that I'm too emotional to get so affected by detachment. But people who aren't bipolar and haven't gone through it do not understand how intense it is. It is from deeply in love, so passionate, see your future with this person, to complete disgust, apathy, nothing. You don't want to be with them, and suddenly you have a list of logical reasons for why you should break up with them and why you should leave them. It feels so real. It feels like your actual emotions towards the person. It is so intense, and like a light switch, when it goes off, the light switch will turn back on, and all of your passion and love and emotion, this list of all the amazing qualities of your partner, it will all come back. But the messages that I receive from people is that there's a pattern of breaking up and getting back together, and breaking up and getting back together, breaking up again and again and again because of going through these periods of detachment. I experienced it for the first time in my first relationship with my college boyfriend. We were fine for months, but suddenly it happened where the light switch turned off and I had zero feeling towards him and I wanted to break up with him. And I didn't even know how to react to it. I remember I went several days ignoring texts, ignoring calls, just not talking to him because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know protocol for what you're supposed to do when you suddenly feel complete apathy, disgust towards the person that you previously were in love with. A few weeks later, it happened again, and I tried to hide it and keep interacting with him. It happened a couple more times, and I didn't know what to do. Eventually, that feeling won over, and I broke up with him. I felt like there was something within me that was messing with his emotions, and it wasn't me, it was something else, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I hurt him enough by being back and forth in my feelings towards him that eventually I broke off the relationship because I didn't want to hurt him anymore. And I remember at the time knowing so strongly that it was not me, it was something within me that kept going light switch off, light switch on. And at the time, I literally described it to him as a light switch towards my feelings. I regretted for years losing that relationship. And when I was diagnosed bipolar a few years later, everything clicked. And I realized that My bipolar broke up the relationship. All the messages that I receive from people in love with the person who's bipolar give me so much hope for the world because they're patient and forgiving and are willing to take the person back again and again, realizing that it is this sickness in their head that keeps doing it. If you are bipolar, you cannot trust your emotions. And I know it's really hard to accept that you have a disability. If you are bipolar, please do not put your partner through this pattern of cutting them off and then wanting them back and cutting off, breaking up, going back to them. Just decide to stay in the relationship and not trust your emotions. I know it's so hard and it's almost gaslighting to tell someone that their own emotions aren't real, that it's fake, that things that you are feeling are not who you are. My current relationship, because I'd experienced detachment before and understood it, I promised myself going into it that I was not allowed to break up with my boyfriend. That if I did, it would be a group conversation with my best friends, family, with him, with a therapist. It would be a group conversation of everything together deciding for me whether or not it's a healthy relationship and one that I should be in. I have wanted to break up the relationship so many times. These impulses so strong where you want to leave, you want it to end, you're not attracted to them, you're repulsed by them. And it is these impulses and emotions that are so intimate to who you are. It feels like you, it feels completely like your emotions and it feels real. But you have to tell yourself that it is not real, that it's not you, that it's your bipolar. But even though I've had those impulses so strong, whenever I've gone into detachment, I've fought through it. I've known that it's not real. I've read journal entries about how incredible my boyfriend is, how much I value our relationship. I've literally written letters to myself for when I go through these periods. Thousands of comments and messages I've received from people who are in love with someone who is bipolar, who feel like they're being strung along and back and forth constantly. If you love someone, you cannot put them through it. You have to fight through these feelings. You have to decide to stay. You have to make a rule where you are not allowed to break up with your partner. Unless, like I said, it's a group decision involving all of your best friends, family, therapist, and your partner. It would be so easy to be gaslighted by your partner, for there to be emotional or physical abuse in the relationship, and because you've made that promise of never leaving them, it would be so easy to be taken advantage of and stuck in a horrible situation. So that's why I recommend sharing in depth about your relationship with other people in your life. If you have worries that it's an unhealthy relationship, talk to your therapist, talk to your family, talk to your friends, bring them into what's actually going on in the relationship. And if you don't want to have that intimacy of involving your problems with other people in your life, just talk to your therapist about it and get that second opinion of what's actually going on in your relationship. And you can even do couples therapy if you're concerned that something is unhealthy. So if you are bipolar and you found someone who's incredible and you're in love with them, and suddenly all of those emotions go away and it's complete apathy and repulsion, not wanting to be with them, laundry list of things you hate about them, just know that it could be detachment and all of it could be not real. So if suddenly you go from being passionate to having nothing, it's most likely detachment that is going on and trying to ruin your relationship and harm so much the person who is in love with you. If you're the person who's in love with someone who's bipolar who's watching this video, send this video to them. Tell them that the person who made the video also has bipolar disorder and that this is a normal symptom that everyone will go through. It makes me so heartbroken the amount of messages I have read of people who are in love with someone who's bipolar, who are going through this cyclical pattern of the detachment controlling them and breaking up the relationship and cutting the other person out and not letting them in. All you have to do is tell your partner that you're in detachment. I know my boyfriend, he hates it when I'm in detachment because he wants us to have a loving relationship where I'm passionate about him, where I'm attracted to him, where I care about him. And when all of that suddenly goes away, it's so sad to him. But the best thing I can do is make sure he's on the same page of where my emotions are, so he's not surprised if I treat him differently or act differently around him, or don't want any physical contact for that period of time. Detachment can last anywhere from 1 day to a week to 2 weeks. It's not something that will last for months and months at a time. If it does, maybe that really is you not being into the relationship anymore. But I would just be careful if you were into the relationship at one point and suddenly it's like black and white difference, like a light switch going off. That's when that should be a huge red flag that it's probably just attachment happening and you do not need to worry. You don't need to leave the relationship. Eventually, your emotions will come back all the way and you will feel so in love with them again. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, make sure that you're following me on my Instagram and Twitter, and linked below is my playlist of 70+ videos talking about bipolar disorder. I love you guys so much and I will see you in my next video. Bye!